Hey yo, what is going on with the viewers of the tube? I hope you're just as excited as me to see each other once again. And if it's your first time here, my name is Tyler and welcome to the channel that knows dominoes are about to fall. And when injustice becomes law, rebellion becomes duty.
And when they do, things will turn nasty.
Rioters were arrested in Brixton.
And then Sutler will be forced to do the only thing he knows how to do. At which point, all V needs to do is keep his word. And then...
You know our V for Vendetta. It's time for Chico Crypto. Well, my friends, it's not a secret that I believe the current system is rightfully screwy John Belushi. I have made countless videos on this channel highlighting the financial inequalities of the systems here in the US and abroad, which can be summed up so easily with this great recent graphic of the different money markets across the globe. Each big square that size represents $100 billion, and silver is the smallest money market they track at just under $50 billion in all combined above ground silver stocks. Next is those crypto markets at $244 billion. Yeah, that's us, boys and girls. Annual military spending dwarfs the crypto markets at over $1.7 trillion per year globally. Next comes just the US fiscal budget deficit, which is predicted to hit $3.8 trillion by the end of 2020. Now it gets interesting. The next market is banknotes and coins, the physical, tangible currency people can touch. Combined globally, that is worth about $6.6 trillion. Now here is where you begin to realize why our world is so frickin' messed up. Next we have the Federal Reserve balance sheet, which as of today is over $7 trillion, and over 40% of that was added in this year alone, in less than 6 months. And now comes the billionaires of the world. Collectively, they are worth $8 trillion, all 2,095 of them. Yeah, 2,095 people collectively are worth $8 trillion, 14% more than the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, and 21% more than all physical currency in circulation throughout the world combined. Now, the asset of old still has its place in the money markets, as it was what tied the governments to the reality for the longest time. That is gold, and collectively it's worth about $10.9 trillion across the globe. But that gold standard was ditched, and now we see what really matters, creating a massive pyramid scheme that will crumble as you don't have enough assets worth anything to back all the wealth we will talk about next. As we can see, the 5 largest Fortune 500 companies dwarf the global gold markets, and that is just here in the US. With 5 companies, adding all stock markets together globally, we get a literal juice head giant. $89.5 trillion is tied up in just the value of actual stocks. Now, for this pyramid to be pulled off, fiat currencies needed to go off that gold standard, or they couldn't have made the Fugazi money, the BS nothingness. If we were still on the gold standard today, based on the market cap, we would only have $10.9 trillion in money supply. But since countries aren't and haven't been for some time, the money supply can grow. The global money supply as of 2020 was $95.7 trillion, which remember, 6.6 is actual physical money. That is only 7%, while 93% is digital, aka nothingness. Gold standard out the window and free-floating currencies allowed governments, corporations, Wall Street, and even households to go willy-frickin'-nilly on credit, and they did. Total global debt of the world, $253 trillion, which is over 322% of global gross domestic product, GDP. Corporations, they make up the bulk of this at 29.5%. Then the governments at 27.4%. Next comes the households at 24.3%. And finally, the financial sector at 18.8%. Finally, you would think we'd get to the top of the pyramid regarding assets, real estate, the land, buildings, and properties of the world. Well, it's massive, worth $280.6 trillion globally. Residential is the bulk of it at $220 trillion, then commercial at $33 trillion, and next agricultural at $27 trillion. But some stats on the biggest category, residential. Of that $220 trillion, $48.4 trillion, or 22% of that is held in the US properties, yet only 6% of the world's population lives here. Europe houses 10% of the population, but a similar over $48 trillion or 22% is held there too. Inequality is ripe in the world, obviously. So we ended. It's the top, right? All this makes up the global wealth, all $360.6 trillion of it. Well, kind of, but we will get into that in a second. America is the largest global wealth leader, making up over $106 trillion of that, or 29.4%. Next comes China with nearly $62 trillion, or 17.1%. Now the next top-ranked countries, Japan, Germany, the UK, France, India, Italy, Canada, Spain, Australia, and finally South Korea, they just make up 34% of the total wealth. 10 global superpowers combined wealth barely outdoes the single country of the US and just double that of China. So wealth, it's concentrated in real estate. But remember, I said this wasn't the top. And wealth is actually concentrated in derivative contracts, which has a notional value on the low end of estimates of $558.5 trillion globally and $1 quadrillion on the high end. This is the top of the pyramid. Futures contracts, options, puts, swaps, and more. Which all assets have against them since blood-sucking Wall Street has taken over governments across the world. Commodities, real estate, fiat currencies, interest rates, equities, aka stonks, shoot, even inflation. Any asset now has a derivative contract against it, including crypto. This asset, which is now the top of the financial pyramid, has been termed a financial weapon of mass destruction. Who said that and when? Warren Buffett did, and he said it all the way back in 2002 during his annual report. He said this: "Charlie and I believe Berkshire should be a fortress of financial strength for the sake of our owners, creditors, policyholders, and employees. We try to be alert to any sort of mega catastrophe risk, and that posture may make us unduly apprehensive about the burgeoning quantities of long-term derivative contracts and the massive amount of uncollateralized receivables that are growing alongside. In our view, however, derivatives are financial weapons of mass destruction, carrying dangers that, while now latent, are potentially lethal." So Warren, he knew it back then. They were lethal, and if you didn't know, what was the cause of the 2008 financial collapse was unregulated financial derivatives. From this report, the role of financial derivatives in the financial crisis. They show that credit default swaps were a main contributor to that financial crisis and collapse. And back then, the notional value of the unregulated OTC derivative market was estimated to be in excess of $600 trillion, high end. Well, according to what we just talked about, since 2008, it has grown by another $400 trillion. Notional value is $1 quadrillion, high end. And many people blame the global viral panic on the market crash in March, but seriously, it was coming even before that. Most assets for the past 10 years have been purchased with borrowed money, as seen from the $400 trillion notional growth, or 66.6% in a decade. Not a good number, by the way. The rise guys who now dominate the daily trading on Wall Street, the hedge funds and private equity funds, typically put down $1 or $2 of their own or their investors' money for every $10 worth of securities they purchase. Now, during a crash, which we saw in March, when prices for the assets fell 10% to 30%, the bank who lent that money for the original trade or took the other side of the derivative contract has a right to demand additional cash. The only way to get that cash is to sell something. So what does a hedge fund or equity firm need to do? Sell, and in that way, selling equals more selling, and a downward death spiral mass destruction event is possible. Oil prices negative? Derivatives. Pulling out the stock market circuit breakers? derivatives. BitMEX circuit breakers, derivatives. Governments printing trillions upon trillions, derivatives. That's why those physical assets, not the Fugazi, the ones that aren't worth that much, silver, crypto, gold, even just physical money bills, not the digital ones, might be the most valuable thing in this world. A physical dollar can still be a unit of account for a dollar in the event of a full-on collapse. But those digital ones, they won't be there as banks go poof. So everyone, the events going on in this world are a product of this pyramid. The people you see flooding the streets, protesting, yes, that's due to unjust death and racial inequality, but that is a product of this pyramid. Yesterday was the anniversary of one of America's worst acts of racial violence, which took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a black neighborhood, one of the wealthiest in America, nicknamed Black Wall Street, as it was home to African American investors who were making bank in the markets. That was burned to the ground. 1,200 homes and buildings burned, 35 blocks gone, and 300 were killed, all black, and the police of Tulsa helped lead the massacre. Black Wall Street was looted and destroyed because it was a threat to the all-white Wall Street. Those are the facts, and for decades upon decades, this was covered up. I played this over the live stream during the weekend, and I'd like to end the video with it today. Rage knew back then in '93 after the '92 LA Madness, and it rings true even more today.
They use force to make you do what the deciders have decided you must do. They use force to make you do what the deciders have decided you must do. They use force to make you do what the deciders have decided you must do.
Killing in the name of. Cheers. I'll see you next time.